I know that learning lighting can feel a little overwhelming, so I want to share with you the 5 mistakes that I see photographers doing all the time when it comes to their lighting. That way you'll be able to almost instantaneously improve your lighting overnight. For the past 5 years, I've been teaching lighting workshops with photographers, and I've learned a lot from that experience. I see the mistakes that people make all of the time, over and over again. So I want to share with you the 5 most common mistakes that I see photographers doing in order to help you improve your lighting almost overnight. So if you stick around to the end, I'm sure that you'll get some really great tips from this video, and it will greatly improve your work. If you're new here, if you could please like, subscribe, and sign up for the bell, I would really appreciate it. And also, when I mention any gear, I'll link to it down in the description or on screen. So let's get started with the very first mistake that I see people doing, and that is not having a catch light. Now, a catch light is a reflection of the main light, the light that's lighting their face, in their eyes. You'll see right now that I have 2 catch lights in my eyes, but probably if I come over here and bring my head down, maybe I don't have a catch light. I'm not really sure about that, but just know that when you don't have a reflection of that light in the person's eyes, their eyes can look a little bit dead. And so what you want to do is just turn your modeling light on if you have one, and just lower the light until you see that reflection in their eyes from the camera's perspective. Now, if you don't have a modeling light or the conditions are too bright in order for you to do that, just shoot a series of test frames. And if you don't see the catch light, just lower the light a little bit until you get it there. Also know that in some instances, you're just not going to get a catch light. I've photographed people with really long eyelashes, and it has been a struggle. So just know that if something like that happens, you could use the power of AI, including Evoto, a program that I use for retouching, in order to add fake catch lights in post. But with anything, I would suggest that you get it right on set rather than just trying to use technology in order to get it right in the end, because your work will be much better for it if you do it right in the first place. The next thing I want to talk about is unflattering light placement. Now, we just talked about that a little bit with the problem of not having the catch light. But sometimes what I will see people do is that they will start off with the light, let's say over in this position, which requires their subject to turn a little bit towards it, and then everything is fine, and then their subject turns away from the light. And now all of a sudden, that lighting is not best for that portrait, because we've gone from short lighting, something called short lighting here. It might only be butterfly or loop lighting right now, but just know that this looks generally pleasing. If the person turns the other direction, we would have something called broad lighting, where now they're lit from their nose tip to their ear, and it just doesn't look as good. And so you want to make sure that where your subject is positioned is in a flattering location for the light. Now, you might want to check out this video that I made previously that's all about the 9 lighting types for portrait photography. Go ahead and check that out if you want a deep dive on this topic. But for the most part, make sure that you have light on both of your subject's eyes for the most part, if that's what you're looking for. You could end up with the light, let's say over here, and the subject could move forward, and now all of a sudden there would be light only on this side of their face and not the other. That's called split lighting. You might do that intentionally for drama or something, but if you do it unintentionally, you're going to end up with a lot of wrinkles, and it's not going to look very pleasing. So you want to make sure that you've got light usually on both eyelids and on both eyes themselves, and that will get you the best results. But go ahead and check out that video that's all about those 9 lighting patterns, as that may give you more ideas and more information about this topic. Most people, when they're starting out, they start off with one light and they just worry about where that light is, which is a little ironic given what I just said. So let's say that they got the light in the right place, and they got light on both eyes, and they got catch lights, and everything is going well. They've sort of forgot about something, and that is shadow detail. The reason why that my face is not completely black over here is because there's another light in the room aside from the light on my face, and that's filling in the shadows. And this could be really important just to preserve details overall. You're going to want really bright elevated shadows if you're going to make your subject, let's say, look younger. So if we have an older subject, we might put something on the bottom to fill in those shadows from below. This could be an highlighter, it could be a V-flat, it could be a piece of paper. It doesn't really matter, but that light is going to bounce up and fill in the shadows. If you've ever watched recent episodes, let's say of Judge Judy on Amazon, you'll notice that there is a light in the table. Once you notice it, you won't be able to stop noticing it. There's a light inside of the table in front of her when she's sitting in her chambers talking to her granddaughter. And sometimes she'll put her hands or hold something up and block it, and you'll see it lighting up the back of her hands or that piece of paper. But that's there in order to fill in those shadows to make her look younger. And so having the right amount of fill can do that. Also, if we don't have fill, we might end up with black hair on, I don't have black hair, but if it were on this side, we could have black hair over here that has no detail in it whatsoever. So adding a fill light or adding a V-flat or a reflector can really help. And I made a video that's all about fill if you want to take a deep dive on that topic, but just make sure that when you're lighting that you have details throughout the scene where you want there to be details, and that you're doing that when you're capturing the photo. If you don't have it, just move in a V-flat, move in a reflector, bounce a second light off the ceiling. Do whatever you need to do in order to get detail in those shadows, because you're not going to be able probably to make the photo look good after the fact if those details are missing. The next thing I want to talk about is separating your subject from the background. And you're typically going to do that with an edge light, which is coming in on both sides here. I have one on each side, coming in and separating me from the background. And this ensures that I don't just blend in, or that parts of my body don't blend into the background. It makes it look more three-dimensional. Now, using an edge light or a hair light is great for this purpose because you want an outline on your subject to be brighter than the background itself. On the other hand, what you could do is you could light your background so that it is brighter than your person, and that will work out as well. The main thing that you don't want to have happen is you don't want to have elements of your subject's clothing just blending into the background, because the person won't pop in the photo and it won't look that good. But if you create contrast between the background and the subject, or put a highlight there to put an edge on their body to separate them from a similarly colored background or dark background, then you're going to get a three-dimensional effect, and it's going to look a lot better. Now that we've talked about backgrounds, there is the fifth and final mistake that I see people doing, and that is that they've got their subject too close to the background and they're getting an unintended shadow of that subject on the background itself. So if you use a light like this on the person's face and the person is, let's say, 2 feet from the softbox and their back is 2 feet from the background, there's going to be an obvious shadow here on the backdrop on the opposite side, and it's just going to look really sloppy. I actually saw a photo from someone the other day where they were using a hard light on the person's face that created a lot of shadowing, and there was a crisp outline of the person on the background. Now, in order to eliminate that, all they had to do was either light the background a little bit or move the person and the main light a little bit forward so that the shadow from the light didn't fall on the background. And that's why almost all the time I place my person about 4 feet or 1.2 meters from the backdrop, and then I've got my main light about arm's length from them or further away, and I sort of consciously will look at the background to make sure that there's not a big sharp outline of them there, which can be very distracting to your viewers and also can inhibit the person being separated from that background, which of course was mistake number 4. So just to review, you want to make sure that you have catch lights. You also want to make sure that you're positioning your light in such a position that the light on the subject's face is flattering. Once you get it there, you want to make sure that you're using the right amount of fill, if desired, in order to fill in the details, if you want to make the person look younger. Or you might want to just use a second light in order to make sure that you have details throughout your image, including in the shadows, so that they are there in post if you want to use them, and you haven't just lit the person so that one part is lit and the rest of it is pure darkness. That is a great difference between a professional image and a more amateur image. The other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that there's separation between your subject and the background, and that might be by adding a hair light or an edge light in order to create contrast there, or it might be by lighting the background itself, because what you want is for there to be a stark difference between the subject and the background. And also don't position your subject too close to the background, because their shadow will fall on the background and be very noticeable and distracting. So those are the 5 mistakes that I see people doing all of the time. If you can think of something that people do that you think is holding them back from success, please share that with us in the comments. And if you have any specific questions about these topics that you think I didn't cover, just let me know in the comments and I'll try to answer your questions there. I try to respond to all comments. Also, if you want to take things to the next level, you could check out my lighting handbooks, attend one of my in-person lighting workshops, or join the Academy with John Gress, where you'll find exclusive content, and also you'll be able to participate in 2 monthly live Q&A and critique sessions where you can interact with me live on Zoom. So you can check that out at johngress.com/academy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and sign up for the bell, and I will talk to you soon.